If you are an avid sewer, chances are that you have heard about sewing projectors. And today we are going to talk about the things you should consider before buying a sewing projector. Hi, I'm Christina, and I love to digitally apparel pattern, creating unique pieces of wearable art. And I have gotten my own sewing projector, the Leisure 470 Pro. If you're interested in that one, you can definitely check out its review right up here. But if you're looking at some of the other projectors or anything, these are things that you should definitely consider before buying a sewing projector. First, there are so many different sewing projectors out on the market that it's good to do just general research on each of the sewing projectors that you are interested in. Some of the basic information that you want to know is like the brightness and resolution. So for the brightness, you want to know, are you going to be able to use your sewing projector in a well-lit room, or are you going to have to dim your lights? That is something that is important to some people and not as important to other people, but it's just something that is good to know. Like when you're actually projecting that pattern, will you have to have all your lights off and be working by the light of the projector, or will you be able to have your lights on and have your projector projecting that new amazing pattern onto that fabric? The resolution is also important. You want to make sure that you will be able to see your pattern on it without having very, very, very thick lines or it being super blurry. If it is blurry or the lines are too thick, depending on how exact you need to be on your pattern, this can cause problems in the long run. The next major thing you need to consider is the connectivity. How are you actually going to be connecting your projector to your computer, or however you're going to be getting the patterns onto that projector? Now, there's many different ways to do this. A lot of times it's an HDMI cord or a USB cord, but you also want to think about where it's located. So there are some sewing projectors that can sit on your table and are a short throw down to your table, and then you don't need as long of a cord. However, there are other sewing projectors that you will actually be mounting on your ceiling. Then you also have to make sure that you have a cord that is long enough that can attach from your ceiling to your computer. But you also have to remember, it can't just go straight down, because that's where you're going to be projecting your pattern. So it has to go out and down. So you will need a longer cord. So it's just something to make sure that you know how it will be connecting to your computer to make sure that you can then project the pattern onto your fabric. Another thing I just talked about was the throw distance. So that is the distance between the projector and your cutting mat or your cutting surface. So a short throw projector can sit on your table or is just a few feet above your table and then projects a very short distance to your cutting mat. And these are very popular sewing projectors, but they are normally the more expensive sewing projector. There are long throw sewing projectors like the Vanco Leisure, the one that I have. It's a long throw, and I have it mounted on my ceiling and I have to cut on my floor. So that is not very happy for ergonomics in my body, but I am still a little young, so I happily have worked on the floor to cut out my patterns so that I don't have to tape together a million pieces of 8.5 by 11 sheets for any of my projects I have done on the sewing projector. But that throw distance is a lot longer. So if you have short ceilings and don't want to be working on the floor, make sure you're looking into the throw distance of the projector. The next thing we need to consider is the keystone correction. So on a lot of projectors, they have it so that you are able to tilt the throw of the pattern of the image on the ground, and you want to make sure that you can tilt it, because if you can't tilt it, then you can't get it perfectly flat, because as much as you want to try, your projector might get slightly skewed as it is being hung, or it's hanging just slightly off, and you want to be able to keystone correct it so that the entire pattern is not skewed. And this takes very fine and minute details, and sometimes it just takes a little bit of work to make sure it is right. Another thing to really consider is the lamp light and the replacement of that lamp light. It's always good to kind of look forward, like if you're hoping to use your projector a lot, how long is the lamp supposed to last you? How many hours? And then how much is it to replace the lamp lights? How easy is it to replace the lamp lights? Knowing that basic maintenance before you dive into a new fun tool is sometimes a good thing to know, because if you don't know the maintenance, you might get surprised by it a little bit later and be like, when you're buying ink, you're like, oh, this is a great printer. And then you find out the ink's like $100 a cartridge. Not so much fun. So I always like to research it and make sure that I know kind of like what the exact problems are and what needs to get replaced and how often. And specifically with the projectors, you want to know how often you're going to have to replace that light bulb. Next, we're going to talk about price. It's always good to kind of have a price range in mind before you buy. However, sewing projectors can range from under $100 to over $1,000, and it just depends on what you're looking to get out of it. If you really need that short throw projector, just note that you're going to be paying more than if you're going for the long throw projector. However, with body ergonomics and how high your ceiling is, can really determine the length or the throw of the projector that you want. But it's always good to kind of have a price range in knowledge, and then you can research the different sewing projectors that are close to what you want and making sure that you get exactly what you want within the price that you need. Other things to consider with price are the other tools that you're going to want to buy with the sewing projector. So a lot of times people use the self-healing cutting mats and rotary cutters. And I have always found that the smaller self-healing mats, the 36 by 24, are never quite big enough when you're wanting to cut out skirts and dresses. So you're always going to need to make sure that you have the size up from that, if not even bigger. I love my 94 by 44 mat. I love it so much because I can just have it as wide as it possibly, I can have the projecting as wide as possible, and I'm easily able to put my fabric on there and cut it almost all out at once instead of having to do it kind of in pieces and sections. So you just want to make sure you kind of understand the other price things that go into it. There is like a new sewing projector brand out called Ditto that comes with a monthly subscription that helps you kind of pick and choose and edit patterns in there. I don't know much about the Ditto program, but that is something to consider, that if you buy that sewing projector, it comes with a monthly subscription. So just kind of knowing what those other tools that you're going to need or other expenses that will come with that sewing projector, so that you can make sure in the long run it is everything you want. And finally, we're going to talk about the most important thing to consider when you are buying a sewing projector, and that is what you want to use it for in the long run. Are you looking to buy other people's patterns and download them and project them onto fabric, creating pieces of wearable art? Are you looking to buy into a monthly subscription where you can kind of pick and choose different design aspects of basic patterns and get almost what you exactly want and put it down onto paper, or put it down onto the fabric and cut it out? Or are you looking to fully design your own patterns yourself and then project them for yourself? Each sewing projector has a different use for each one of those. Some of them you can use your own patterns on. Some of them you can only use a certain specific store-bought pattern on. So it's just one of those things. What do you want your sewing projector to do for you in the long run? Before you spend a ton of money on it, you want to know what your end goal is. So please make sure to like and subscribe so that you can see other fun ways to use sewing projectors. And if you're interested in learning how to digitally apparel pattern so you can create your own PDF patterns to project, definitely make sure to look down below and get my free key commands and guides to get you started patterning in Adobe Illustrator. I look forward to seeing you in some of my other videos. Happy patterning!